supertalk1270.com.
Welcome to Extension Connection on Supertalk 1270. Thoughtful information and discussion with experts from both Burleigh and Morton County Extension Service offices. Extension Connection provides advice on family nutrition, issues in agriculture, lawn and garden, community leadership, homeowner concerns, and so much more. Live from the Supertalk 1270 studio, this is Extension Connection.
Good morning and welcome to Extension Connection. This week you're joined with Burleigh County Extension. I'm Kelsey Sheldon, Extension Program Assistant, and I'm joined by Tom Kolb, Extension State Horticulturalist Extension.
Yes, that's a mouthful. Hi, Kelsey. How's it going?
Good. How about you?
Everything's good?
It's good. It's chilly.
There was some rumors about snow yesterday, so
That's right.
Here we are. We're talking about horticulture, yards and gardens.
That's right.
Snow is upon us, but
we had a light dusting at our place, just north of Bismarck there. Yep.
Wow. So here it comes. Here comes Mother Nature and her winter. But there's a lot of stuff we can talk about this morning about how to get our yards prepared for that brutal winter ahead. Right?
That's right. So I think we'll start off with a couple calls that have been coming in through the office.
Sounds good.
The last couple weeks here. So one that has been a little bit more prevalent than others is questions about needles browning on our pine and spruce trees. Like I said, I live north of town, and I'll tell you what, if you take 26th Street north of Bismarck there, they're all looking the same. And, of course, it gets people a little worked up and worried, but
really?
They don't need to be worried,
trees
right?
Turning brown?
Yeah, those older inner needles are starting to die off. It's common.
That's
it
right.
happens.
It's supposed to happen, right?
Every year.
That's right. So no worries. Like as long as the problem are the old needles, which are towards the inside of the tree, then this is just natural. An evergreen needle is not forever green.
That's right.
It turns brown and dies. And so like when we see our ash trees dropping leaves, we don't go nuts. We don't say, the sky is falling, my tree's dead. No, it's just natural. The leaves drop, and so the needles drop.
That's right.
But the key is making sure that the young needles are healthy, and the young needles are at the tips of the branches. So always, whenever I judge the health of an evergreen, I always look at the tips of the branches because that's the new growth. That's where the future is. And in the case of these pines, they can shed. It's not uncommon to shed like a third of their needles, their older needles.
Yep.
And then I get a question a lot about people asking about like then people want to rake underneath the tree, or the needles are bad, or should I put the needles what if the needles get in my garden? Is that a bad thing? And because the needles do add a tiny bit of acid, but acid's actually good for our soils. So, but the tree likes those needles. The needles are supposed to drop underneath the tree, and they enrich the soil. They increase the organic matter of the soil. So just leave Mother Nature alone if you can. You don't have, and that's easier for us. We don't have to rake those needles. So just let the needles underneath the tree, and the tree will just be happy that way. That's the way it should be.
Exactly. Another question that I got I believe it was yesterday actually, is I had a lady call in and ask, when is a good time to get a soil test done?
Well, that's a hard. Well, that was yesterday. Wasn't it? Too late. No, just kidding.
Late.
No, okay. I had. One thing about soil tests. A soil test for yard and garden costs about $18, and I am like the frugal gardener, and so like I don't ever want to spend anything I don't have to, but I think a soil test is one area where I really have to highly recommend it for our part of the state especially, because our soils can vary so much.
Yep.
Even just 100 yards away, the soil can be so different, and I see that in my neighborhood. Even in my own yard, I can see major differences in the soil. And so if anybody has any question at all as far as the fertility of their soil, or I know there's a lot of new homeowners, I think it's a good idea to get your soil tested to find out what's going on. And like a vegetable garden, for example, can produce hundreds and hundreds of dollars of produce every year. And just that $18 investment to find out what's going on with your soil, how can I make it better for our plants? maybe I'm putting on too much fertilizer. I can save money that way. Or maybe I need to add some organic matter. That's a great investment. So, I think the sooner you do it, of course you want to do it for the ground gets rock hard, right?
Yep.
Frozen. So let's do it. Let's do it right after this radio show. We got a lunch break. Just go out there and do it. And I think the best place to get your soil tested is the North Dakota State University Soil Testing Lab, because that has the ultimate equipment that will give you the precision rating as far as what exactly your soil needs. And so, I remember once somebody told me that you can buy these backyard soil test kits,
like the rapid test.
Yeah. And they can get you an idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
Like one person told me that will get you to the ballpark, but if you want to get to your seat, really want to know exactly where it is, that's where you should send it to a university soil testing lab. And there's instructions how to do this. You can just Google NESU soil testing or soil testing lab. There's instructions for yard and garden tests. It's easy to do. So let's say if we want to do our garden, we don't want to take the soil just from one area of the garden, because that may not represent the soil very well. So we want to take multiple little samples, go out there with a small shovel and a clean 5-gallon pail, go about 4 to 6 inches deep at some random locations in the garden, just little shovelfuls. So maybe 6 shovelfuls from a random location in your garden. And then you mix all those little sub-samples together, and then you get one sample that you can send to Fargo. And so you'll be sending about a cup of soil to Fargo. And you can do the same thing for your lawn. Just go out there, go about 4 to 6 inches deep, just random samples, just like I was taught, do a W. Just pretend you're walking a W, just random. Take at every point of the W, take a little shovel. And in a couple weeks, you'll find out exactly what your soil is about and how you can improve your soil. Get soil test recommendations for next year. So, or even if you do it now, you might even have time to make some changes this year before the ground gets frozen. But the sooner you get to it, the better.
Sounds great. Well, it looks like we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back shortly.
Okay, sounds good.
Currently, it's 35.
Weekends with Twilight Zone Radio on Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to Extension Connection. This week you're joined with Burleigh County Extension. I'm Kelsey Sheldon, Extension Program Assistant, and I'm joined with State Horticulturalist Tom Cobb. Right before the break, we were talking about a few different questions that have been happening, and if we have anybody out there listening that has any questions...
Oh, yeah, they should give us a call at 663-1270. That's 663-1270. We're happy to answer any gardening question you might have right now. We're ready to go for it.
All right, that sounds good. So another question that I recently got, I believe it was last week actually, was a client wondering if you can seed grass right now, if now is a good time to put down grass seed.
Yeah, I got the same question today.
Okay.
Maybe they didn't like your answer. No, just kidding.
Maybe, you never know.
Well,
or maybe they just wanted to go to, the expert.
Huh?
Yeah.
Just like a doctor, plant doctor. Well, okay, I'll give you my 2 cents, and then we'll get your 3 cents. It's okay. Okay, the best time to sow grass seeds in the fall. Okay, we're talking August 15th to September 15th. Okay, the ground is warm, the seed germinates quickly, and the other thing to keep in mind is whenever you work up the soil, you encourage weed seeds to germinate. You kind of wake up the weed seeds that are in the dirt. But if you do it in the fall, the weed seeds aren't likely to germinate. And so that's why fall's such a great time. But now, the last I checked, we're past September 15th, and we're way past it.
Almost a month.
Yeah, that's right. So, and when you talk about snow, when you start talking about snow, okay, it's a problem, and so it's very risky to sow grass seed now, because the problem is the soil temperature right now in Bismarck, Mandan at the research station is the turf temperature of the soil is 49 degrees. So it's kind of cool. The seed may not even germinate, but if it does germinate, the problem we're going to have is that it will never get itself well rooted, that it can survive winter. So I would, excuse a pun, but I'd cool it on the seeding. And if you want to, there's a thing called dormant seeding, and you can do it after the ground is near frozen. And we usually do that in November. It's a time to do that. the seed won't even think about germinating then. It can't germinate. It's too cold. But the seed will be there. It'll be there all winter. And the advantage of dormant seeding is that in early spring, the weather's unpredictable. And what can happen is that it could be very wet next spring, and it could be a long time before you get into the garden. And so if the soil is ready to go, you can put down the grass seed in November, and it'll just sit there. But then when the temperatures warm up, the soil temps warm up, the seed will automatically germinate. You didn't disturb the soil in the spring either, and so you won't get that weed pressure coming on. So there is a justification for dormant seeding. On the other hand, the problem with dormant seeding is that seed sits there all winter, and we get wind and snow, and especially if it's on a slope, I'd be inclined not to dormant seed, because it's just the seed's going to wash away. Yeah. So then what the heck? what was the point? It just washed away. So in that case, you just wait till spring. I'm generally more of a fan of just waiting till spring, because it's, even if it gets a little bit wet in the spring, it's usually not that late. And even if it delays it a little bit, the ground's that much warmer, so the seed will come up that much faster. So, but you can dormant seed in November, but I'd kind of just... If it was me, I'd just find something else to do, watch the Vikings instead, or do something else on Sunday, besides dormant seeding. But there can be, if you want to, it can be done.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, the one problem when you seed in spring, again, you disturb the soil and you get weeds to come up along with the grass. But we can deal with the weeds later in the fall. So, but it's up to you. A lot of times there's no right or wrong, black or white. It's kind of a gray question. So you can dormant seed in November, but most people will now hold off until spring.
That's
so
good.
How about that? What else can, if you want to have your lawn though, one thing you can do is you can sod now. Now's a good time to sod. You can sod all the way until the ground's frozen. So if you're desperate for grass in the yard, you can put down sod. That's a good idea. The other kind of grass questions I get this time of year has to do with killing weeds. Fall's the best time to kill weeds because the weeds are preparing for winter. The thistle out there knows winter's coming. It's cold at night, and the nights are getting longer. It's sending now all its nutrients down into its roots to survive winter. So if we spray thistle now, the thistle itself will take that herbicide down into its roots along with its nutrients. So that's the best time. We're kind of getting at the end now. Again, like this, it would have been better maybe a week or so ago, but as long as the weed, like my thistle in my yard, still looks pretty healthy, and so I can still go get it. And so it's as long as the weeds look healthy, because the weed has to be active, it has to be alive.
So you shouldn't see any dieback on it.
You should not see dieback or frost damage. If you have hard frost, you can get weeds can still stay active after a hard frost. But if you get a series of hard frosts, which for most of us we haven't, the leaves will collapse. But we haven't, for a lot of our toughest weeds like thistle, their leaves are still in good shape. So you can go out there, and that's my plan this week, and go out there and nail them. So it's the best time. Fall's the best time to kill weeds. The other question I get Kelsey a lot has to do with raking leaves and mowing. A lot of people are interested about mowing. You don't have to rake leaves if they're just scattered on the lawn. You can just mulch them and right into the soil. And what I do is after I'm done mowing, I just look back, and if I can still see the grass blades sticking up, and they weren't buried in the leafy mulch, then my grass is going to be okay. So a lot of times, for a lot of, especially the newer properties that don't have a lot of leafy trees, unless you're really like a real shady yard, a lot of times you can just mulch those leaves right in. And then people ask about the last mowing.
And when should that happen?
Whenever you want to get around to it.
Okay. When your schedule allows it, right?
Halloween's good for me. But the last time you mow, I always recommend cut your turf tall. The taller, the better. Tall turf gives you a deeper root system. A tall turf shades the soil, keeping it cool, and that's what your turf wants. But a tall turf is bad over winter. A tall turf will, it can mat down, and it can attract diseases in the winter. The other thing is a tall turf can attract meadow mice and other rodents. And we don't want rodents in our yard, especially in the winter, because then they don't just damage the turf, but also they start nibbling on our trees and shrub bark, and that's a good way to kill a tree or shrub. So the last time you mow, I recommend you cut cut tall, which is usually like 2.5, 3.5 inches. Cut at moderate height, maybe 2 inches, or maybe even a little bit lower than normal, maybe 1.5 inches. So make sure you have your lawn neatly trimmed the last time you cut it. And like most lawns are not actively growing now. But for me, I never know what the weather is, so I just kind of wait. There's like no hurry to cut it now. There's like no advantage of cutting now instead of Halloween or whatever.
Yeah, no snow predicted
tomorrow. Yeah, I guess. Actually, that's a good way to check it out. Like if we got the next blizzard coming, like 6 inches of snow, okay, I'll get out there and mow right away. And then, but make sure you cut your lawn neatly trimmed. That's a good idea.
That's good. We both yesterday had a lady come in and ask about cutting back perennials this time of the year.
Perennial flowers.
Stuff. So there's kind of some benefits to cutting back, but there's also some benefits to leaving them tall.
Really? What do you think?
I think it depends on what you want.
Yeah.
The gal that we had yesterday said she had just planted this year. So
right.
What did you say to that?
Well, the whole purpose, just got to think about what's the purpose of mulching our perennials. And the purpose of mulching perennials is not to keep them warm. I kind of thought that was it, but no, that's not it. We don't want to keep warm. It's not like a blanket. What we want to do is the mulch keeps the soil frozen. And the worst thing for a perennial is the freezing and thawing. Like when we get warm periods in February or early March, the soil will thaw out and then it'll refreeze, thaw out and refreeze. And when that freezing and thawing action causes the soil to move around. And the plant roots they don't like that when the soil is moving around because it rips the roots. So what you want to do as far as mulching goes, you wait till the ground freezes. So that's, again, you got to wait till like mid-November. Again, soil temps on turf now is like 49, so it's not near frozen yet. So wait till the ground freezes and then put the mulching on. And then the mulching will help insulate the soil and keep it frozen all the way through March. And as far as you mentioned about trimming, that's kind of like some people are neat freaks. They have to trim everything so it looks just right, But I think most plants, as long as the foliage is not diseased, the plant likes that foliage there because it helps insulate the crown, and it can attract snow. Snow can gather around the crown when there's something sticking up there. So most perennials would prefer if you leave them alone and do the trimming like late March, early April before new growth starts.
Perfect. All right, we are going to take another break. We'll be back shortly.
Sounds.
Currently, it's 35.
The home for ABC News at the top of the hour is Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to Extension Connection. This week you're joined with Burleigh County Extension. I'm Kelsey Sheldon, Extension Program Assistant, and I'm joined with State Horticulturalist Tom Kelb.
Hey, Kelsey.
How's it going?
All right, everything's good.
Yeah, we're about halfway through, so we're doing good.
And if anybody has any gardening questions, we'd be happy to answer your question. Our phone number is 663-1270, 663-1270. If you have any questions about your yard and garden, last-second chores in the yard, we'd be happy to help you.
That's right. Before we get back into the gardening and horticulture, I have a couple upcoming events for youth out there, if any of our listeners have some youth. I actually have a cloverbud succulent gardening class going on tomorrow. It will be 6 to 7, so it's 1 hour, and it's going to be youth ages 5 to 7, and your child can come in and design their own pot and then pick out a succulent to plant in there. And this actually is free, so today is the last day of registration. And then next week, Thursday, we have a 4-H Youth Pinterest Night, and you will be making a scarecrow snowman. It'll be a reversible kind of construction wood, so you'll have that cute fall and winter decoration. That is going to be October 20th, 1 to 3, and it's going to be for youth ages 8 and up. The class size is limited to 10, and registration is going to be due by the 17th. So if you are interested, you can visit our website, or you can also give us a call at 701-221-6865.
So let's get those are good programs. So the one on succulents is tomorrow?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night,
Yep.
6 to 7.
6
so you
to
said?
7.
Do
Yep.
they have to register ahead of time?
Yes, they do. Today would be the last day you can get in, get it registered.
And it's free.
Yes.
So the kids can paint a pot, and then they get a free succulent to take home.
To plant in it, yep.
That's great. That's a great plan for a kid. They can't kill a succulent
That's
just
right.
about, right? You just,
Easy maintenance.
just ignore it.
That's right, and it'll do well, so.
And they paint the pot. That's fun.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so call the Burleigh County office at 221-6865 to sign up for that. You got to register.
Yep.
And that other thing was fun too. That's the
next week,
Scarecrow
yep.
Snowman thing.
Yep, and because kids don't have school, that's why it's offered 1 to 3 next week on Thursday.
And
so.
then is that free?
No, that one has a $15 charge.
$15
I
charge.
believe,
Okay,
yes.
got to find out more about that. That's
right.
Those Pinterest nights are really popular.
That's right. So
That's great.
All right, before the break, and we've been kind of talking today about popular questions that have came in this time of the year. One that I had was, we got hit last week, I think, with about 26-degree weather on Friday night.
Sounds about right.
And so people went and pulled pumpkins off the vine and wanted to know if they weren't fully orange and still had some green on them, if they would ripen up. And our answer is yes, you can ripen those off the vine.
That's right.
So,
get them a little sun would be good.
yeah,
Help orange them up a little bit.
There you go.
They'll keep ripening.
that's right. So that is one thing. If you do have some that aren't ripe yet, you can. Do you want to put them in just area
Put
of
them
the
right
house?
on the front porch. That's what I want to do. I want a sunny area where it's a little bit warm and sheltered. You want it airy, but you want to like 60s, 70s be nice. Even in but and a little sun. So like I'll turn the pumpkin so the green side is in the sunny side, and but somewhat sheltered area.
Perfect.
Yeah, you can make it happen. It's good.
All right.
So nothing wrong with a little green on the pumpkin. Actually, my daughter likes green pumpkins. It's kind of strange, I thought, but but maybe that's bison green. That's what I said. It must be the bison. You can
That's
have a green
right.
pumpkin and celebrate the
Well,
bison.
there's a lot of different colors and varieties you can grow these days.
That's
Correct.
right. That's right. There's great. You can go to like grocery stores now. You see all kinds of different types of pumpkins and squash out there, and some are really ugly looking and distinctive. They're all warty, and one's like the peanut pumpkin's looks like peanuts on the shell, and there's one that what do they call it? It's like a hangover pumpkin. It looks like the pumpkin's got a hangover. It's all got like a weird striping on it. And
Sickly looking.
That's all I know, but so that's distinctive. But that reminds me. Do you want to talk about our pumpkin controversy here?
That's right. I think we should.
Okay, so like people, a question I get often this time of year, like we do a lot of work with varieties, like what's the best variety for this, and sometimes at this time of year I get a question, what's the best pumpkin variety for my pumpkin pie?
Well, that's the big hype this time of the year is pumpkin everything.
Oh yeah, got to have like pumpkin spice latte,
right.
Pumpkin pancakes, pumpkin cupcakes, pumpkin cheesecake.
That's a favorite of mine.
Is that yours? Yeah, we're having that too at our house. And even life cereal, pumpkin spice life cereal. I got
That's a
that
new
for my
one,
daughter.
too.
She likes that. So pumpkin mania out
That's
there
right.
right now. Pumpkin coffee, all that stuff. But the thing about pumpkins is that most of the jack-o'-lanterns, most of those orange pumpkins that were developed, that are grown today, are grown for Halloween. They're not grown for cooking. And so if you want a great tasting pumpkin pie, I recommend that you use squash. And that's what Libby's does. Libby's, their pumpkin puree. They're 100% pumpkin puree. Actually what they do, they use the term pumpkin a little bit liberally there because it's actually a butternut squash. And so, butternut squash, they have a pumpkin that's very creamy with nice texture. But we got a call right now, so let's get with that call. Caller, what's the question you have? Welcome.
Hi, thanks. See, my garden, I had my soil tested this spring, and the pH was like 7.8, and I had it measured in a couple of different spots in my garden. One was 7.8 and 7.9 that came back from NDSU.
Right.
So I got me some stuff. I can't remember what it is. It's a powder that is supposed to bring down the pH value. So do I put that on now, this fall, and do I till it in, or do I just let it sit on top, or what should I do with it?
Okay, maybe that was that gypsum you put on the...
Yeah, it's not gypsum.
Or peat moss?
No, it's...
Or some sulfur product?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, like ammonium sulfate or aluminum sulfate. Okay, here's the deal. Okay, the sulfur will help to acidify the soil. You're right about that. That'd be a good thing to do. But there's not going to be much going on in that sulfur now. It's so cold. It's all temperature dependent. So you're not going to get much acidification of the soil this late in the season. But, it's kind of up to you how you want to handle it. If you can scatter around the soil, and then you should mix it in. We want to get it into the soil, definitely. You don't want to leave it on the surface, otherwise it can wash out. We got to get it into the soil, where the action is, the top 4-6 inches of the soil. And I'd say if you want to do it now, you can do it now. If you want to wait till spring, you can do it in spring, because really it's not going to make much difference. If we would have done this we had this call in June, then we'd start seeing some action going on, some acidification of the soil. But pretty much everything's kind of calm now out in that garden soil, not much activity. And so it's up to you how you want to handle that. Doesn't really make much difference.
All right.
So there we go. Anybody else has any questions, we're happy to help you. And the phone number is 663-1270, 663-1270. That's a great question. And, as far as we were talking about that pumpkin, most of the best tasting pumpkin, I think, is really what we would refer to as a squash. So butternut squash, which is what Libby's uses. They plant thousands of acres, and their processing plant outside of Peoria. It's Morton, Illinois, and it's all actually an heirloom pumpkin that they grow called. They have a special selection of Dickinson squash, which is a butternut squash, and so. That's one thing. Your pumpkin pie is really, I guess, it's more closely related to a butternut squash. But I mean, what's the difference between a pumpkin and a squash? We use that term so interchangeably. They're so closely related to one another. So, Libby's can get away with calling it a pumpkin because I guess technically they're all squashes / pumpkin. But the whole key I want to impress upon people is your jack-o'-lantern is probably not going to make a good pumpkin pie. No. I'd recommend you get like a butternut squash or maybe a buttercup squash. Buttercup squash started in North Dakota, and a lot of people say that's the most flavorful of all squashes. So North Dakota, we released that in 1931. Do you know that?
I did not know
we
that.
We are the originator of the buttercup squash. The best tasting squash in the world comes from North Dakota. How about that?
Pretty cool.
And even there's some other squashes out there like the squash is part of our heritage. The Native Americans in the Three Sisters Garden. The squash, it's important for your nutrition. It's how they survived the winter. They'd take the squash and they'd cut it in slices and skewer it on a willow stick, and then hang it to dry during the fall. And then you have those little slices of squash that you could eat all winter long to go along with your corn and beans, and you have a balanced diet. They knew what they were doing there, I'll tell you that, and that's how you survive winter with that balanced diet. So, and there's varieties that are Native Americans, the Lakota squash. You can buy that. It's from some seed catalogs, and that makes an excellent tasting pie or squash soup. You ever had squash soup?
No, I haven't.
Oh, come on, man, you got it. You haven't lived.
Have you?
Yeah, of course.
You like it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's great. I had that in a restaurant in Hanoi, Vietnam once. How about that? It's kind of fancy. It was one of those fancy French restaurant. Of course, everything's dirt cheap there, so it was like a 50-cent bowl of soup. So it was delicious, but that was great. Yeah, that's how you learned it. And of course, Asians, they eat so much vegetables, so they're so healthy.
There you go.
So that's the day. So my lesson there is, save your jack-o'-lantern for your jack-o'-lantern. If you want some great tasting pumpkin squash, go with the squash.
Perfect. All right, we are going to take our break, and we'll be back in a little bit.
Okay.
Currently, it's 36.
The Jim Bohannon Show is here. Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to Extension Connection. This week you're joined with Burleigh County Extension. I'm Kelsey Sheldon, Extension Program Assistant, and I'm joined with State Horticulturalist Tom Cobb.
Yeah, hey everybody. We're here to answer gardening questions. If you have any questions, you can call us at 663-1270. That's 663-1270. We're on for about 10 more minutes. We're happy to answer any questions. But otherwise, Kelsey, we're going to have some rapid-fire gardening tips, right? Is that right?
Sounds good. That's
let's
right.
Let's get it going. Okay, let's talk about the fruits. A lot of times we get the question about our apples. Can I leave the apples on the tree or do I got to harvest them? Apples can take frost to temps about 26. Okay, after that they can get frost damage. So if the temps are 26 or colder, you should harvest the apples. If the apples do freeze on the tree, you don't harvest them right away. Wait till they thaw out before you harvest them. And then what you do is once you got that thawed out apple, it will not store very long. So that's what we're gonna process that right away. We're gonna be making our applesauce or apple pie to go next to our artificial butternut squash pumpkin pie. And so keep that in mind. Apples can take to about 26. How about a lot of times apples are on the ground now, like for some of us who never got around to picking our apples. I've been there before. Or the winds blew some of our harvest down. Now you got to pick up your fallen apples because this is where a lot of the insects survive, is right there. They were in the apple, and now they're going to just start tunneling into the soil, into that, and they'll be in the litter of right there, the leaf litter, the fruit litter. So it's a good idea to minimize disease and insect problems, to minimize wormy apples next year. Pick up your apples and rake underneath the tree, get the leaves out. Then they'll prevent diseases next year, and that will also prevent wormy apples next year. But now here's something else. You got to be careful about picking up apples this time of year because wasps, there still are a few of the strongest wasps are out there, the ones who are a little bit more cold tolerant. And so when you pick up an apple, be very careful because the wasps will be active there. So maybe wear a pair of gloves or just be careful about the way you handle that. Look out for the wasp. And we had a great call before about improving our garden soil, and you can do that now this time of year. I really believe in getting a soil test done. That's such a good investment for us here in Bismarck, Mandan. But if I could just guess what's the best thing you can add to your soil for most of us, it's peat moss. And peat moss is organic matter. It will improve the overall condition of the soil, fertility a little bit, but also improve the drainage, make it more loose, easier to work with. It helps to hold on to water when it's a little bit dry, and it helps, but also helps have more percolation of water when it gets really wet. So organic matter is great, and peat moss will acidify the soil a little bit. So those big bales of sphagnum peat moss, put an inch of that into that and work it into the garden. That's for most of us. That would be the best thing we can do to our garden. Maybe you picked your green tomatoes. The best way to ripen them, here's how you do it. You put a sheet of newspaper on the ground and you set the tomatoes on individually, on a single layer on the newspaper, and then you put another layer of newspaper on top, and that will help trap the ripening gas. We call it ethylene that like bananas and apples and tomatoes give off. Ideally, you can wrap every tomato with newspaper, but that gets to be a lot of work. Any tomato that's showing a blush should be able to ripen indoors. Make sure there are no rotten spots or anything because they won't ripen. Don't set your tomatoes on the windowsill because when you give them that bright, direct light, all you do is ripen the outside of the tomato. You don't develop the inner flavor inside the tomato. And tomatoes ripen best at room temperature, so keep that in mind. What else some other rapid fire? Now it's a great time to plant garlic. Get the garlic in the ground right now. You plant the garlic now, and it'll get its roots established now, and then we'll harvest it later next summer. So plant the garlic now. How about your trees? This is the best time of year to wrap your tree, especially a young tree. You got a young tree, like especially a smooth bark tree like a maple or any fruit tree or a mountain ash or a linden. These trees can suffer from sunburn in the winter. And, I always thought that we we wrap a tree to keep it warm, like a nice little coat. But no, that is so wrong. We wrap a tree to keep it cool during winter, because what happens is that bark is totally exposed to the winter sun. There's no leaves shading it, and on a sunny day in winter, you can have temperatures build up on that bark, and the tissue will get active, and then when the sun sets, the tissue freezes rapidly, and then it explodes. You look at any maple tree in Bismarck, Mandan on the southwest side where the sun hit it, and you'll see a major crack, and that's from sunburn or sun-scald injury in winter. So that's why we wrap these trees. Use something light colored, like a white, like these white tree guards you see. That's the best thing. And put that on right now. And they'll protect against meadow mice and other wildlife too. So that's a good idea. Wrap your trees to keep them cool. Do that now. You just do that, especially for when the trees are young. Let's say the first couple years for sure, until the tree develops texture, we say. Well, maybe that's 5 years for some trees. Okay, that's very helpful.
Good tips.
Okay, here we go. What else I got for you?
You want to talk about some insects this time of the year? We
What's the
talked
best thing
about
about
wasps
frost? No mosquitoes now. That's good.
No ticks.
No ticks. That's good. How about wasps? Yeah, we talked about that briefly. I think I got a call. I guess I got an email today about someone wants to move a wasp nest because it's so beautiful, and they're doing some roofing and they saw a wasp nest, and the roofer says, "Okay, let's destroy that nest." And this naturalist person, she says, "Oh, it's too beautiful. I don't want to destroy it. Can I just preserve it somehow?" And I really appreciate that attitude, because even though, but she wants to put it in a bag and then hang it somewhere warm. But sorry, man.
Probably not going to work.
Yeah, you don't mess around with wasps. That's one thing. You don't mess around with their nest. They're going to come after you big time.
Yeah.
Have
you want to
been there?
save the wasps? You do it.
Well, you can't. That's the problem. Yeah. Sorry, man. It gets cold here. And wasp, after a series of hard frost, every wasp in that nest is going to be dead, quick frozen. So, I think I just want to say people hate nests or wasps, but that's a beautiful story, I have to say.
Love story, right?
It's a love story. You got it. And, so I got that nest has like 300 wasps. They're all females, all sterile female wasps that were there with their mom. Their mom laid them starting in May, and they've been building up the nest all summer long, working hard, selflessly as a family. And now the mom knows, hey, sorry guys, the winter's coming. We've got to keep the progeny going. So she had a couple men, and she had a couple new queens, and now they've left home. And so she's got her 300 female workers and herself up there, and they don't leave each other. They stay together all the way till the end. They're shivering together, they're shaking together, but they stay. They've lived their whole life together, and they're going to die together. They're going to suffer together and stay together as a family.
Reminds me of the Titanic.
That's right, exactly. Like when you know that the ship's going down, and you're like one of those lower cabins, and like they couldn't get out.
Singing Welsh hymns.
Yeah, what was that?
Yeah, the wasps be singing Welsh hymns.
That's right, or saying some wasp prayers. But that's it. Fear the hornet, but I think it deserves a little bit of admiration too. So there you go. What else about bugs? Oh, box elder bugs are out now. Box elder bugs are attracted to a box elder, which is a type of maple. A lot of maples have box elder bugs, and they're looking for a place of warmth. That's all they're looking for. So they come to your sunny south or west side of your house. If you want to, you can destroy them. Go ahead. And the easiest way to destroy them is just use detergent soap. Just mix about 5 tablespoons of detergent per gallon of water and spray the bugs. They'll desiccate to death. That's a way to take care and clean the siding, as also kill the bugs at the same time. So a lot of good things there. So now they will also die pretty soon after a few hard frosts. So there you go. Those are my rapid fire gardening tips.
All right, those were great, and thank you for joining me this week, Tom.
Yeah,
always
sure.
a pleasure.
Happy to.
All right, that is the end for us today. We will be back in 2 weeks.
Sounds good.